After a while, only then did they gradually come to their senses. After determining that they hadn't heard it wrong, they instantly became so ecstatic that they couldn't wait to raise the corners of their mouths to the sky. One by one, it was as if they had won the jackpot by buying a lottery ticket, so excited that they were at a loss for words. Yes, yes, ma'am. Wait a moment. We'll wrap it all up for you. Xiaoqin, you go wrap that row. Winya, you go wrap that row. Looking at the excited and busy appearance of the shoppers, Ilsa couldn't help but let out a light laugh. Reminding, you guys seem to have forgotten to ask what size he wears. When the shoppers heard this, they all looked embarrassed and reddened with shame. Oh, right. Then may I ask, sir, what size do you wear? Is it convenient to say your height and weight? We can recommend the right size for you. At this point, Patrick was still in immense shock. But he still knew his own size by heart. He skillfully said his own size. Then he walked quickly to Ilsa, Chairman Garcia. All the clothes here are expensive. How much would this cost to buy all these styles? How can you spend so much for me? I'm just a fake boyfriend you hired. Looking at Patrick's anxious look, Ilsa was about to say something to comfort him. But she was interrupted by Wendy. Wendy walked to Patrick with great enthusiasm and looked at him with hot eyes. Ayo, handsome, you don't have to think too much. My sister is willing to spend money for you. Let her do it. She is a female president. She has a lot of money. You're so tall and handsome, you should wear the best brand. After saying that, Wendy blinked her big round eyes and threw a wink at Patrick. Then, she stood on her tiptoes and quickly touched Patrick's chest. Patrick was stunned. Hurrying to take a step back, he avoided her. Watching Wendy make another nymphomaniacal move towards Patrick, Ilsa glared at her with hatred. Wendy, don't tease people. I'm not as immodest as you. However, as soon as the words came out of her mouth, Ilsa regretted it. Because she guessed Wendy's next words to tease her. As expected, Wendy giggled. I'm immodest? Yes, you and Patrick are the most serious ones. Decent enough to meet in bed at the first meeting. Before Wendy could say anything, her mouth was covered by Ilsa's hand. Seeing that Ilsa was really angry, Wendy knew the consequences of annoying her sister. Ilsa, on the other hand, looked at Patrick with a blush on her face and whispered, don't bother with her in general. As for those clothes, you don't have to care about the price, I can afford it. Patrick saw Ilsa's resolute attitude, so he had no choice but to nod his head and whispered, okay. A few minutes later, the shoppers were still busy organizing and packing the clothes. Since it was a top luxury brand and many of them were limited editions, the shoppers were all very cautious and careful. Each piece needed to be carefully checked against the code, invoiced, and folded and packed in a professional manner. Wendy got impatient and couldn't help but spit out, I don't know what to say, she said. She couldn't help but spit out, this brand of clothes is so troublesome. Sister, look at them one by one, packing a dress so slowly. Timid as rats, as if they're afraid of breaking it. Ilsa seriously glanced at Wendy. Don't talk nonsense. This brand of clothes is more expensive. They are also afraid that they can't afford to pay for it if it gets damaged. Wendy pouted and stamped her foot angrily. After a while, Wendy waited more impatiently. After remembering that there happened to be a few designer bag stores on this floor, she immediately came into the spirit. Sis, I think we'll have to wait a little longer here. Why don't we go and take a look at the bags first? I heard that the new styles from Polytech are especially nice. Ilsa smiled at Wendy's eagerness to see the new bags and then stood up. I really can't do anything about you. All right then, let's take you to the shopping. Ilsa said, and was taken by Wendy's arm. Before leaving, Ilsa went to the front desk to settle the bill. Ma'am, you bought a total of 38 pieces of clothes, 12 tops, 10 pairs of pants, and 16 sets of suits. These clothes total $5.6 million after discount. How do you see yourself paying for it? When she said this, the shopper was so nervous that she rubbed her hands together. You know, if she sells so many orders at once, the commission she gets will be able to cover her salary for several years. At this moment, she just wants to complete the transaction as soon as possible. If she waits even a second longer, she is afraid that the customer will back out. Patrick, who was standing at the side, heard that the clothes were worth $5.6 million. Jaw-dropping, stunned in place. He couldn't believe that a woman he just met was willing to spend so much money on clothes for him. Where was this hiring him to pretend to be his boyfriend? This was clearly the rhythm of wanting to adopt him. Okay, swipe my card. Ilsa unhurriedly took out a card from her bag and handed it to the shop assistant. After checking out, Ilsa picked a casual suit from those clothes and handed it to Patrick. Patrick, change into this suit. Wear this suit to the family dinner with me tonight. Just finished speaking. Ilsa was pulled out of the clothing store by Wendy impatiently. Patrick spread his hands, then walked straight into the fitting room. 2 minutes later, When he walked out of the fitting room, the store assistants were all stunned. They marveled at Patrick's handsome looks and his tall and straight body. "Sir, this suit suits you so well." "Yes, yes, yes, it's simply customized for you. Your looks and temperament are even better than my favorite idol star." Looking at these young ladies with a shy and flamboyant look on their faces, Patrick hooked his lips at them and smiled. This was if it was in the past. Suddenly getting so many compliments from so many young women, Patrick would probably have drifted off. It was even possible that he would fall in love with one of the beautiful ones. But now is different. Since last night's extreme experience. Nowadays, he only has Ailsa in his heart, and he can't help but think of all her gestures and movements last night. For example, at this moment, Patrick was standing in front of the mirror, scrutinizing himself in the suit. But in his mind, Ailsa's sweaty and seductive body appeared in his mind. It's a man's nature. Once you go off the deep end, it's really something. Beep beep beep. A WeChat voice call sound interrupted Patrick's thoughts. He quickly picked up his cell phone. While walking towards the outside of the store, he pressed the answer button. "Hey Mom, what's up?" "Son, today is the winter solstice. The family is preparing dumplings. What kind of trap do you want to eat?" "Any of them, Mom, or beef and scallion." The sentence was not yet finished. Patrick suddenly remembered that he was going home with Ailsa tonight. Then surely he couldn't go back to his own house for dinner. "Okay, hey, beef and scallions then. Besides dumplings, what else do you want to eat?" "I'll ask your dad to make it for you." Mom, I forgot. I'm not coming home for dinner tonight." Hearing this, Mom Tyler was instantly a bit annoyed. "What? Not coming home for dinner? Then where are you going?" Hearing the anger in his mom's tone, Patrick hurriedly found an excuse to explain. "Mom, I have a dinner with my friends tonight." Who expected? When Tyler heard that his son had a dinner party tonight, the anger in his heart instantly increased. What friends are you going out to fool around with again? It won't all be bachelors like you, right? Originally, you succeeded in your interview today. Your father and I are quite happy and are going to make you a delicious meal in the evening. Tell me about you. Now you're not coming home again." Quietly, he listened to his mom's burst of ranting. Patrick's heart was in his throat, and he could only softly coax his mom. "Mommy, my most beautiful and gentle mommy, don't be angry. I'll definitely be home tomorrow night to have dinner with you and Dad, haha." In the face of his son's pampering, Tyler not only did not half happy, but suddenly remembered Patrick's marriage. Thinking of his son is 27 years old. He doesn't even have a girlfriend, and marriage is even more remote. She suddenly felt angry. "Brat, you just know how to fool around with your friends. Compare yourself with Randy from Auntie Zhang's family. Not only did Randy find a girlfriend, he even brought her home to meet his parents today. Look at you, you're almost 30 years old and you don't even have a girlfriend. When are you going to let me and your dad hold a grandchild?" Patrick had guessed that his mom would bring up his marriage again. After all, the top priority in the family right now was his marriage. His father and mother had been urging him to get married all day long. "But you guys are just hyping up the marriage. What's the point of comparing Randy to me? That grandson always knows how to show off. So many unmarried guys his age are being compared to him by their parents. He's just like the other guy's kid. If you can't find a date, you'll have to go to the People's Park matchmaking corner for a blind date. Your father has also sent word that you must settle your marriage affairs within half a year. This is a matter of great importance for our Davis's future generations." Mom's mouth was like a machine gun, firing wildly at Patrick. Patrick frowned tightly listening to his mom's endless criticism. When he was anxious and worried, he suddenly thought of Ailsa. Then it occurred to him that Ailsa had asked him to pretend to be her boyfriend. So, he had a brilliant idea in his head. Since she, Ailsa, can find someone to pretend to be her boyfriend, he can also find someone to pretend to be his girlfriend. That way, not only can he avoid blind dates, but he can also suspend his parents' urging for marriage. You can live a quiet life in peace. Why not? Thinking about it, Patrick's eyes glowed and the corners of his mouth unconsciously rose. "Hey, Mom, stop for a moment. First listen to me announce something, a big happy event, oh." Hearing this, Mom's machine gun suddenly stopped spraying. "Big happy event? You brat, what big happy event can you have? There's nothing that would make your dad and I happy right now except for the wedding." Patrick laughed aloud a few times. In a lighter tone, he said, "Mom, I'm talking about me getting married. And listen to me in detail. I guess, actually already have a girlfriend. We've been dating for 3 months now. She's very gentle and pretty, just a bit introverted. That's why she hasn't let me publicize our relationship until it's stabilized." After saying that, Patrick feigned a happy and naive smile. After listening to her son's account, her mom, Tyler, was directly confused. She couldn't believe it. Yesterday, her son who said he didn't have a date, today he already had a girlfriend? And has been dating for 3 months already. This brat can't be bluffing her? Brat, tell mom the truth. You really have a girlfriend? If you dare to lie to mom about this, you'll see if mom doesn't break your legs. Faced with mom's lion's roar threat, Patrick helplessly deflated his mouth. Mom really didn't believe in herself. Since this was the case, there was no choice but to zoom out. Mom, I already knew you wouldn't believe me. Then let me show you a picture of my girlfriend, and by the way, I'll tell you something even more explosive. Actually, I'm not going to dinner with my buddies tonight, but to my girlfriend's house for dinner. Said. Patrick immediately found out Ilse's WeChat and clicked on her friend circle. TSK? A real beauty. Any photo is amazing. Patrick found a picture of Ilse's daily beauty. After clicking on it, he casually forwarded it to his mom. What? Going to your girlfriend's house for dinner tonight? Is this real? Said mom, this heart fluttering. You bastard kid, if you dare to cheat. Mom's rant grew more and more intense. Just as Patrick's ears were buzzing from the shock, he planned to hold the cell phone away from him. Mom's ranting suddenly came to an abrupt end. The corner of Patrick's mouth hooked up with an evil smile. He knew that mom had seen Ilse's picture. Now she has nothing to say. The phone was silent for a long time. Patrick couldn't help but ask, Mom, you saw it, right? That's my girlfriend. Isn't she gorgeous? Hey. Mom was shocked and said, this girl is really your girlfriend? You asshole kid, you hurry up and get your ass home. No way. Why is mom still angry? Patrick hurriedly explained, Mom, you still don't believe me? This is really my girlfriend. It can't be fake. I even sent you the photo. The words just fell. Instantly resounded a chilling cold laugh from mom. Hehe. If this was a picture of an ordinary girl, mom might believe it. But this girl, mom definitely doesn't believe it. She's just too beautiful. Whether it's her looks or body, she's more perfect than a star. Just this stupid kid of yours, can you find a girlfriend like a heavenly fairy? You're fooling the ghost you? Hearing his mom mocking himself like this, Patrick suddenly felt speechless. Good guy. Why would a mom look down on her son so much? Even though this girl has the beauty of a fairy and the body of a devil. So what? I've done it to her on my own. I did it 4 or 5 times in one night. At this time, mom is still furiously scolding herself. Starting tomorrow, you'll be going to the dating corner every weekend to set me up on a blind date. I'd rather not work anymore, but I have to settle my marriage first. Remember, brat. Finished. Mom hung up the phone in a huff, leaving Patrick standing on the spot with no tears. Just as Patrick put his cell phone back into his pocket and turned around to go back into the clothing store, a revolting voice rang out behind him. Yo, Patrick, what are you doing here? Patrick froze for a moment, then turned back. Someone who was incredibly familiar and annoying to him appeared in front of him. He forced a small smile. Greeting, he said, Randy, long time no see. Randy raised his hand and held up the gold-framed glasses on the bridge of his nose. Then it took a small stride and walked to Patrick with a smug face. Patrick raised his eyes and surveyed Randy. After not seeing him for a while, this guy was even better at pretending. Not only did he keep a big shiny back hair, but also put on delicate gold-framed glasses. This is walking up the elegant literary style. However, his fat round head and that short thick and short fat body is unable to change. A set of brand name suits, wearing in his body. Hard popped out a big exquisite butt. It looked very comical. Standing with Randy was a female companion who was heavily made up and draped in a white mink coat. Oh, by the way, this is my fiancé, Shakti. Shakti, this is my hairdresser, Patrick. Randy introduced his female companion with a big smile. Patrick glanced at Shakti and gave her a polite smile. Hello. This Shakti, at first glance, was tall and had 3-dimensional features. The looks were quite exotic, but it simply couldn't withstand a closer look. At a second glance, one would feel that it was very average and at best, it was considered to be slightly decent. Because this woman painted makeup is really too thick. Those who don't know thought she was born with big eyes and a high nose, but who knows it's all made up. Eyeliner was drawn wider than her eyes, and her nose shadow was as if she had been beaten up. The whole face was comparable to a large paint field and looked dirty. Hello you. Shakti greeted with a look of surprise. In her opinion, this hairdresser of Randy's was too handsome. It was just a matter of being good-looking, but he was also extremely manly. Tall, powerful, and hormonal. Compared to him, her own boyfriend was simply a fat man. Randy, your hair guy is so handsome. Hee. Shakti had a shy face and couldn't help but swoon. Randy sniffed and instantly darkened his face. He clenched his back teeth and glanced at Shakti. Inwardly, he was very annoyed that his girlfriend was flirting with Patrick. But he hated Patrick even more. He blamed Patrick for his girlfriend's nymphomania. It was Patrick's fault that he was so good-looking that he was crazy about his girlfriend. Since he was a kid, whenever he saw Patrick's face, he was so angry that he couldn't wait to disfigure him, but inwardly thought on the surface cannot show it. He didn't want to be ungenerous in front of the woman he loved. Haha, that's right, Patrick is the most handsome amongst my hairdressers. When he used to go to school, he was the school bully in our school. He's not like me, only good at messing with studies. What he's good at is messing with people. After saying that, Randy laughed out loud and wrapped an arm around his girlfriend's waist, and took the opportunity to squeeze hard. Agu, people hurt. With the girlfriend's cry, Randy's pair of triangular eyes instantly narrowed into thin slits, with the smugness of his own embrace of beauty written all over his eyes. Patrick snorted coldly in his heart. He naturally heard it. Randy's words of yin and yang were on the surface complimenting himself. In reality, it was a dark irony that he was not as good as him in his school days and would only get involved in relationships. Oh, this hypocritical guy, really shameless. If he is really like what he said as well as excellent character and learning is just, in fact, his grades are at most middle of the road. The college entrance exam results are not as good as his own. In order to dismiss the face, hard to rely on the family's good conditions, spend a high price on a foreign pheasant university. After graduation, he packaged himself as a high achiever who had returned from studying abroad. By the way, Patrick, are you seeing someone now? I heard from my mom that your parents are especially anxious about your marriage. Do you want your buddy to introduce you to one? Seeing that Patrick didn't say anything, Randy took the initiative to ask about finding a date. Patrick sniffed and shook his head with a disdainful face and said, "No need, I'm all ready." A sentence was not finished. It was then interrupted by Randy. "You're welcome, brother. I'm also worried about your marriage. I suggest that you, must lower your requirements to find a partner. As you know, there's a serious imbalance in the ratio of men to women nowadays, and girls are all very demanding in terms of financial conditions. So, you have to recognize your own conditions and don't pursue a beautiful woman too much." The word beautiful woman was deliberately elongated by Randy. At the same time, he hugged his girlfriend Shakti tighter. Looking at Randy's commanding, complacent, and pretentious appearance, Patrick only felt sick to his stomach, as if he had eaten a fly. He couldn't help but raise his head to the sky and rolled his eyes. Then with his hands in his pockets, he said disdainfully, "Brother, I thank you for your kindness. I won't trouble you with the matter of finding an object. I'm not like you, rich and powerful and a high achiever who came back from overseas. I'm just a miserable laborer. I don't expect to find any object. If there's nothing else, I'll leave first." After saying that, Patrick waved his hand at Randy and his female companion and was about to turn around and leave. To him, it was really out of sight, out of mind. Since this grandson liked to pretend so much, let him pretend enough. Not only was he too lazy to poke him, he even helped him round up in front of his goddess. That's enough for you, isn't it? In fact, as to why Randy hates himself so much, Patrick's heart clear. Since childhood, Randy has been excellent in both character and learning, and his family conditions are relatively favorable. But he has a fatal shortboard, is his height and looks. Because of the fat head and ears of the appearance and 5 short thick fat body, leads to him no woman's love. A few years ago, a classmate reunion, drunk Randy spit out the truth. Patrick only learned that the original high school days he talked about the school's girlfriend, but is Randy's crush. The goddess that he coveted was the one he hooked his fingers to. No wonder he has a deep grudge against himself. But if you think about it, it's not his fault. There's nothing wrong with being handsome and attracting women. Moreover, Randy has not used his own excellent character and learning to suppress himself, so that parents often take him to compare with himself. Those years, he was a very good example of the opposite. After the past experiences in his mind flashed quickly, Patrick came back to his senses and realized that his arm was actually pulled by Randy. "Hey, brother, what's going on? We haven't seen each other for such a long time. Don't you want to catch up with your brother?" Randy pretended to exchange pleasantries with Patrick. Patrick flung his arm away in disgust. A fire burned in his chest. "I didn't want to expose your pretense, and I even went along with your performance. What's wrong with that? You're still addicted to pretending, and you have to let me be an audience for you? Think of this." Patrick suddenly decided not to endure. Since it cannot be avoided, then once and for all to give him a wave of hard to hit the face. So, he stuck his hands in his pockets. Seemingly smiling, he looked at Randy and said, "Randy, what are you talking about? .mt1988.com. Buddy, of course want to catch up with you, we are a good brother from childhood bare-ass play, I heard from my mom that you and your girlfriend are getting married soon. Have you brought her home to meet your parents? I'm really envious. You found such a beautiful girlfriend. seeing Patrick so envious that he has found a great beauty. He also took the initiative to change his name to Shakti as sister-in-law. Randy instantly smiled and narrowed his eyes, his smugness overflowing. Haha, it can't be helped. In this society nowadays, money is king. Money is the only way to find a pretty girlfriend. Money is a man's face. If you don't have money, what's the point of being handsome? Entering the society is not the same as before in school. Women in the society are very realistic. After saying these words with pride in his eyes. After saying these words with eyes full of pride, Randy turned his head and stared lustfully at his girlfriend Shakti looking. The hand around her waist became even more unsteady. Shakti was rubbed and kneaded to the point that her body itched and tingled, and she couldn't help but wriggle her body. With a delicate voice, she softly exclaimed, "Ouch, hubby, you're so bad. You're hurting me, humph." To be honest, after just listening to her boyfriend's words, Shakti at this moment more and more feel that their boyfriend excellent, although he is short and fat, not handsome, but cannot help him quite rich or to stay in the ocean back to the high school students. And then look at this hair small Patrick, although handsome over the sky. But listening to Randy's tone, Patrick should only be a poor loser. These days, handsome can't be a meal. Thinking about this, Shakti's eyes no longer fell on Patrick, but looked at her boyfriend with deep affection and admiration. Patrick utilized his height advantage and looked down with a disdainful face at the flirting duo in front of him. In his heart, he thought to himself, this one really took the bait. With a little bit of support from himself, he's drifting away. Next, let him continue to show off. After all, it's only when you hold it high that you can fall hard. Ahem. I say, buddy, can you not show off so much? If you two continue to be so mushy, I'll simply move a mattress for you, so that you can have a big fight right now. After saying that, Patrick laughed a few times to himself. Seeing Patrick, a single dog, so envious that he had found a big beauty, Randy was so pleased that he couldn't find his way out. Ha ha. Let's pay attention then, Shakti. Don't make my buddy too jealous. Shakti covered her scarlet hot cheeks with both hands. Shyly, she said, I blame you. Nonsense. Patrick saw this and hurriedly complimented, again. By the way, Randy, I heard that you opened a hot pot restaurant. Business must be very good. Your business acumen is unrivaled. Hearing Patrick take the initiative to bring the topic to business, Randy felt instantly satisfied and laughed out loud in a very high-pitched manner. Ha ha ha, that's that. There are too many customers in the store, and if it wasn't for the fact that I had to bring Shakti home to meet my parents today, I wouldn't have been able to spare any time at all. How about you, Patrick? How's work these days? The real estate industry is not doing well these days. That small company you work for won't. Why don't you come to my store to help out? I'll give you $5,000 a month. How about it? Randy finished, fat hand waved. That expression is godly and proud, as if he is a big boss of a public company that manages tens of thousands of employees. Patrick was so happy that he coughed. This grandson is really a fool. Do you really think others don't know? His broken hot pot restaurant, a few days do not see a customer to come in. The flavor is not authentic and poorly run. Plus, in the current climate, it closes down from time to time. I'm afraid that even the staff cannot afford to hire, but also dare to brag about hiring their own. If he did not have his father and mother to take the pension to support him, it is estimated that now early to drink the northwest wind to go. Hey. Patrick sighed a few times, pretending to be worried. Randy saw this and held back his inner joy, falsely extending his hand to pat Patrick's shoulder, comforting him. What's wrong? Buddy, are you in some kind of trouble? It's fine. There are so many bachelors now. You're not the only one with no money and no date. If you ask me, don't be too picky when it comes to finding a date. Just ask for a woman. What about work? You should consider jumping ship. Now that small company is in trouble, right? Patrick calmly brushed away Randy's fat hand. Then, his expression turned and he glanced at Randy in disbelief. Randy, you're right. It's not bad to be a senior student. You have a brain. I really did jump ship. I just interviewed for a new job today. Shanghai Real Estate, accountant in the finance department. Hearing the name of Shanghai Real Estate, Randy's complexion was secure, and the smile on his face instantly froze. After freezing for a moment, he said with wide eyes, What? Shanghai Real Estate. It's our Magic City's leading company, the Shanghai Real Estate Group that ranks third in the nation's real estate companies. Patrick nodded slightly with a calm face. Well, it's this one. After receiving Patrick's affirmation, Randy's face instantly darkened, and his eyes became shadowy and ghastly. He couldn't believe it. How could this stinky hangman who had always been nothing but good-looking enter Shanghai Real Estate all of a sudden? That was a big company that had extremely high requirements for education, ability, and personal image. He had to admit that he didn't even have the courage to go for an interview so far. The more Randy thought about it, the more angry he felt. Self-esteem was strongly insulted. However, after glancing at the great beauty standing beside him, he suddenly smiled again. Self-soothingly, what could this stinky hangman do even if he got a good job? He has no money and no power, and I heard that he doesn't even have a matrimonial home by now. Definitely won't be able to find a wife, let alone a beautiful woman like Shakti. Doomed to be a bachelor for the rest of his life, forever trampled under his feet. Thinking about this, Randy complacently said, "Yo-ho. Then you're doing well now, you've found a good job. Do a good job, and strive to afford a marital home soon, and also find a beautiful woman to be your wife," said. Randy narrowed his triangular eyes and smiled meaningfully. Then, he pretended to ask his girlfriend without thinking, "Right, baby." After stiffening for a moment, he suddenly thought of something as if. He suddenly ran towards the window next to the sightseeing elevator and stood there to look downstairs. What a coincidence. At this moment, the engine of Ailsa's car sounded. Ailsa and Wendy got into the car first, followed by Patrick. Boom. A Rolls-Royce Phantom went away. Randy was so angry that he nearly fainted. Rolls-Royce Phantom? That woman was actually driving a multi-million-dollar luxury car. No wonder she bought several $1 million of clothes for Patrick in one go. The girlfriend Patrick found is definitely a top tycoon. This kid is going to be rich. How did such a rich and beautiful woman become Patrick's girlfriend? Why? At this moment, Randy was so jealous that he went crazy. He was completely oblivious to the fact that his girlfriend, Shakti, was looking at him with a grudge in her eyes. Women's eyes are the most insightful. Shakti clearly saw that since Patrick's girlfriend appeared, Randy has been seduced by his soul. The way he looked at Patrick's girlfriend could be described as salivating. This was something he was afraid he would have been eager to lick up if no one else was present. Randy, look at you. How can you stare at someone Patrick's girlfriend like that? Where are you putting me? I admit, his girlfriend is really pretty, but I'm not so bad either. Shakti beamed and pushed Randy to pout. Unexpectedly, Randy instantly dodged Shakti and didn't even look at her. Shakti immediately felt chilled and disappointed. She stomped her foot and said indignantly, "Randy, what do you mean by this? Just now you were hugging and kissing people. Now that you've seen a beautiful woman, you have no patience for me? Good for you. I can see what kind of person you are today." At this moment, Randy was in a rage. He couldn't listen to what Shakti was saying at all, much less have the patience to coax her. He glanced at Shakti and said in a bad mood, all right, stop chattering. You think your voice is as good as Youngmi's? Just your broken voice, it's distracting to hear." On the busy and bustling streets of Magic City, the Rolls-Royce Phantom drove steadily on the road. The carriage was filled with Wendy's bright laughter. "Ha ha 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 ha. Isn't it great, Patrick?" Wendy said, looking back at Patrick. Patrick honestly said, "Haha, it was indeed great. I've long been tired of seeing that pretender Randy. I've put up with him for years. Once more than once to get an inch. This time, I finally hit his swollen face hard." Thinking of the wave after wave of shocked looks he just had, Patrick felt great. Let this grandson make fun of others for not having a girlfriend in the future. Oh, other people's girlfriends were so beautiful that they blinded him. Patrick could imagine Randy's frustrated expression of being so jealous, but unable to do anything about it. It was worth pretending to be this boyfriend. "Patrick, did you notice?" Wendy said with a bad smile. Patrick, found out what? Wendy glanced at Ailsa, who was sitting elegantly and calmly beside herself. Whispering to Patrick, "This person, my sister, don't look at her. She always has a high and mighty image. In reality, she's adorable. For example, just now, in order to cooperate with you in punching that pretentious man in the face, those two husband calls yo, really meaty." Patrick nodded approvingly. "Well, you're right." Ailsa's sudden husband still makes Patrick's heart flutter. His heart was as sweet as honey. He sighed in his heart. "Ailsa, this woman is really interesting. Sometimes wild, sometimes cold, sometimes cute." At this time, Ailsa turned her head, and her red lips raised in a beautiful arc tic-tac-fiction.com. Actually, she didn't know why she had just seen Patrick from afar being constantly mocked by a pretentious man. A flame rose up in her heart, wanting to help him ruthlessly beat the pretentious man's face. Was it because Patrick had spent the night with himself? Or was it because Patrick was an employee of his? Or because he needed Patrick to pretend to be his boyfriend and go home with him? Whatever the reason, Ailsa doesn't want to see him mocked. Backing him up and saving face was nothing more than a casual gesture. After a pause, Ailsa orthochromatically said, "Patrick, Wendy, stop chatting. Let's hurry up and get down to business. Since we're going to pretend to be boyfriend and girlfriend, we first need to get to know each other." Patrick nodded his head as he sniffed. Right, we have to practice a bit in advance. In order to avoid being poked and prodded when the time comes, we have to get used to being boyfriend and girlfriend in advance. Watching Elsa and Patrick in a serious conversation, Wendy puffed out a laugh. Don't worry, you guys definitely won't be poked and prodded. You've already communicated in depth. Now it's just a matter of getting to know each other's personal information. These words came out. The atmosphere in the car was instantly subtle. Patrick twisted his head to look out the window, holding a smile at the corner of his mouth. Elsa, on the other hand, bit up her red lips and raised her hand to knock Wendy's head. Ouch! Ouch! Sis, it hurts. Wendy screamed twice in pain. Elsa, shut your little mouth and stop making trouble. Wendy deflated and rolled her eyes. I don't care about your business yet, huh? I'll always sleep, right? Finished. Wendy closed her eyes in exasperation and leaned on the seat without moving. It just so happened that she was tired of shopping, so she simply took a nap. Seeing that Wendy was no longer making trouble, Elsa turned back to her. Elsa turned back to Patrick. By the way, I bought you 2 watches. Try them on. Saying that, the white, thin and pretty chin nodded the luxury bag on the back seat. Patrick then noticed that there was a bag sitting beside him. He briskly picked up the bag and pulled out the box inside. A Rolex? Expensive, isn't it? Elsa faintly said. Try it on. After opening the box, looking at the exquisite and luxurious, extremely textured 2 watches, an idea suddenly popped into Patrick's mind. He hooked his lips into a smile and raised his deep eyes to look at Elsa. Chairman Garcia, since we're going to pretend to be boyfriend and girlfriend, we have to act more realistically, right? Otherwise, why don't you help me put it on? Looking at the watch Patrick handed over, Elsa frowned slightly and froze for a moment. This guy actually dared to call upon himself? There had never been any man who dared to use this tone of voice to talk to himself. Seeing Elsa ignoring herself, Patrick wanted to tease this woman even more. Thus, he advised with a kind face, Chairman Garcia, I'm also doing this so that we can get into character earlier. After all, there's very little time left for us to practice. We have to hurry up and get used to the intimacy of boyfriend and girlfriend in advance. Elsa knew that Patrick's words smacked of deliberately poking fun at her. But she also understood. What Patrick said still made sense. Since they were going to pretend to be a couple, the necessary intimate interactions were unavoidable. Thinking about this, her beautiful eyes turned and she glanced at Patrick with teasing eye waves. Stretching out her jade hand, she said, Here, give it to me. Patrick obediently handed over the watch. Elsa held Patrick's hand and carefully put the watch on his wrist. The steel-forged case, the Roman indexes, the opaque case back. The subtleties show the quality, high luxury and low profile at the same time. How does it feel? Elsa said softly. Patrick nodded subconsciously. Yeah, it's good. The watch was good, no doubt about it. But Patrick's mind was not on this watch. His eyes couldn't help but fall on Elsa's jade hand. The touch of skin. Patrick suddenly remembered the depth of last night's exchanges and could not help but feel a dry mouth. At this moment, he was really unable to pull his wrist out of Elsa's hand. I think it's nice too. It suits you. I'll wear this one tonight. Let's put the other one away for now, said the man. Elsa let go of Patrick's wrist and withdrew her hand. In fact, although Elsa was unperturbed on the surface, but her heart was also rippling. After all, last night was her first time. For a woman, the first time is the most profound. Even though she didn't invest much emotionally, her body has a memory. Touching Patrick's body, it was impossible for Elsa's body not to react. In the slightly bumpy carriage, Wendy had already fallen into a deep sleep. But driver Vim in the driver's seat had complicated eyes. From time to time, he glanced at the rearview mirror of the car, observing the 2 people behaving intimately in the back seat. Vim had been working as a driver for Garcia for 20 years. His eyesight and insight were still there. According to his observation, those 2 Rolexes were the latest models, the Submariner series. They were worth millions of dollars, and they bought 2 at once. This money is able to buy a suite. Casually can put a suite in the hand, really envious of others. To be seen by Chairman Garcia's only daughter, this kid is considered to have changed his destiny against all odds. Patrick noticed the envy in the driver's eyes. He pretended to smile smugly. So being adopted by a rich woman is this kind of feeling. In one word, awesome. Elsa was amused by Patrick's words. She held her forehead and said, All right, don't be poor. Let's get back to the topic. Now that your image problem is solved, it's not bad, elegant business style. Next we should. Patrick interjected, I understand. It's time for us to string together a confession. Elsa gave Patrick a blank look. Let me start by telling you about my family. My parents, grandmother, aunt and uncle will all be at the family dinner tonight. My aunt and uncle are very open-minded. They won't interfere in my relationship. Mom and Grandma, as long as you show sincerity and generosity and have a good relationship with me, they will like you very much. My dad's hurdle is not too good to pass. He's old and calculating. His city is extremely deep. Hearing this, Patrick instantly felt Alexander. He clearly remembered that Tony mentioned this Chairman Garcia to him in the morning. Pierce Garcia was a formidable figure, starting from nothing when he was young and single-handedly founding the Shanghai Group. In this area of Magic City, Pierce Garcia, the real estate tycoon, can be regarded as the boss of the top tycoons. If he stomps his foot, the whole financial circle will tremble. He is just a brat with no money and no power. To be so bold as to break into Garcia, is this not a sheep entering a tiger's mouth, rushing to be slaughtered? Ailsa's eyes narrowed slightly. She had already seen Patrick's mind. She smiled easily and comforted, "It's okay, you don't have to be so nervous. Although my dad is a bit bossy and overbearing, he will more or less respect my opinion. You just need to be careful with your words, talk less, care more about me, and let him see how much you love me. I'm sure that he won't give you a hard time." Hearing that, Patrick was slightly relieved. After a pause, he suddenly remembered that Ailsa's blind date would also go to her house. "Right, that blind date of yours." Ailsa waved her hand indifferently. "It's okay, for David's father and son, you don't need to take care of them. All right, now it's your turn to tell us about your family. If my family asks, I'll be able to answer." Patrick nodded seriously. "In all seriousness," he said, "there are 3 of us in our family, and both Mom and Dad used to be teachers at the art academy, but now they're retired. Both of them love to paint and spend most of their time at home painting every day. Tic-tac-fiction.com. I also have an aunt who has been doing business abroad. My aunt's daughter, my cousin, she is very close to me." Ailsa listened carefully to Patrick's words. "Okay, I'll make a note of that. So it seems that your family is a bookish family. Both Mom and Dad are university teachers and painters." Hearing the word painter, Patrick couldn't help but laugh out loud. Hastily waving his hand, he said, "Not much of a painter, just like to draw." After learning about their respective family situations, Ailsa picked up her cell phone and glanced at the time. It was now 5 o'clock in the evening. The sun sets early in winter, and the sky is already a bit dark at this moment. Although there was still an hour before the dinner, it seemed like there was nothing left to prepare. "Otherwise, why don't we go home now?" "Vim, don't send me back to the office. Go directly to my parents' house." Ailsa's words had just fallen. Patrick then looked nervous and said, "Hey, don't go to your house first. Don't go yet." "Ailsa, what? Wimped out?" Patrick raised his sword brows. Explained, "Wimped out? It is impossible to wimp out. I, Patrick, will never run away from something I've already agreed to." Ailsa frowned. "So tell me, why don't you want to come home with me now? Are you not ready for that?" Patrick shakes his head frantically. No. I did suddenly remember something. We may be pretending to be a couple, but it's my first time visiting my mother-in-law and husband-in-law anyways. I've always heard my mom reciting before that whoever's son bought some gifts for his first visit to his in-laws. So I thought, I can't go home with you empty-handed to meet my parents. I have to buy some gifts to bring. It's only reasonable." After listening to Patrick's words, Ailsa nodded in realization, murmuring, "That's true. Then is it too late for us to go gift shopping now? There's less than an hour left, and there's the traveling to account for." Patrick thought for a moment, then clapped his hands and said, "It's not too late. Since we're in a hurry, let's buy something simple and generic, which may not be too sophisticated, but it won't fall flat on its face. Just go to the shopping center in front and buy it." After listening to Patrick's suggestion, Ailsa expressed her strong approval. At this moment, she suddenly realized that Patrick knew quite a bit about people, at the very least more than she did. After the driver parked the car in front of the shopping center, Patrick jumped out of the car alone. "Chairman Garcia, I'll go shopping by myself. Take a rest in the car, I'll be back soon." Finished speaking. Without waiting for Ailsa to say anything, Patrick walked into the mall with big strides. The reason why Patrick didn't want Ailsa to go with him. 1, it was because she was wearing high heels, and she was already tired from shopping. Secondly, he didn't want to let Ailsa spend any more money. Just now Ailsa had already spent too much money for him. His heart was already very upset. Although he was only pretending to be a couple to meet his parents, but the matter of buying gifts for his parents-in-law should be spent by the man. 20 minutes later, Patrick walked out of the mall holding a bunch of gift boxes. After opening the car door and getting into the car, Ailsa was really surprised. "What did you buy? Why are there so many?" Patrick smiled with his teeth and said, "Nothing, just some tonic. There's abalone, sea cucumber, as well as bird's nest and calla coriacini." I know that your family definitely doesn't look down on these things, but this is also a little bit of a token of appreciation, and the proper etiquette should still be there. Hearing Patrick say this,